Here we go. Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Got my right-hand man, Chris Daughtry, helping us out behind the scenes, producing today's live show. Hope everybody is doing great here on a Wednesday afternoon. It's been a couple weeks since we've been live here on the channel. It's been a little crazy with NFL free agency, some of our other responsibilities here at the Chat Sports Cincinnati branch here, doing some free agency stuff. On our main Chat Sports channel, also a lot of Cowboys stuff as well. So we weren't able to go live the past few weeks, but we are back live again here on a Wednesday, and hopefully we can get in a bit of a groove here and start going live here about 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the coming future on every Wednesday. Got a lot to talk about here on today's show. Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins are locked up. It is official. We've done several videos detailing that, but this obviously is our first time we have been live since that. So get down in the comments section, type your ones, type your fives, get fired up. Uno and T. Higgins are going to be back for the long term with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that is a great thing. I think most people locally have that same mindset. There's definitely some people out there nationally that are like, oh, how are you going to win when you're paying all your receivers and your quarterback so much money? Thought Cincinnati absolutely knocked this out of the park with T. Higgins and Ja'Marr Chase. And I know most of you guys probably think the same as well, especially if you're one of the 50-some people here hanging out with us. As we get going here on Bengals Breakdown, we will give a few shout-outs here. Appreciate all the real ones hanging out with us early on. Derek's Young is here. He's fired up. Appreciate you, Derek's. Who else we got here? Bengals number 1 is here. My guy CWT here as well. Michael Hall says he enjoys the lives. I appreciate that, Michael. Thanks for stopping by here on a Wednesday afternoon. The J-Man is in the chat as well. He's fired up, as is Charles, typing his fives right now. He's pretty fired up that T. Higgins is going to be back with Cincinnati. Phoenix Girl 81 additionally says, what's up? She says, hooday. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here to get our live show started. Got plenty of good stuff to talk about. We're going to start our first segment talking a little bit about Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins, of course. Thought their press conference, by the way, yesterday was awesome. I thought Cincinnati did a great job at executing that, kind of doing those deals parallel with one another. When we were talking about Duke Tobin, Katie Blackburn, the Bengals front office alongside T and Jamar's agent, Rocky Arsenault, thought it was incredibly well executed, and the press conference kind of was the cherry on the top yesterday with having both of those guys do a little joint press conference. Thought that was pretty cool. Really encourage you guys to check that out if you have not done so already. I know the Bengals have it posted. James Rapine, of course, has it posted as well, so make sure you guys check out that press conference if you have not seen it, because it definitely is worth your time. Now that these guys are locked up, we can really start talking Super Bowl around here once again. I think every time that those guys take the field, when you're talking about Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase, and T. Higgins, there is a realistic, and I'm not even going to take it a step further, a good chance, not just realistic, but a really good chance that this team can win a Super Bowl in the next 4 or 5 years. Let me know. Will Cincinnati do that in the next 4 or 5 years? T. Higgins locked up through 28. Burrow and Chase locked up through 29. Type your Y's or your N's if you don't, or if you're still a little skeptical about that happening. But let me know in the comments section. This is a total Y for me. Shoot, even if T. Higgins wasn't back, I probably would be up here saying that. But I said it on a video a couple of days ago. If you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, not that you need to be a gambler by any stretch of the imagination, but if you are, before every season, you should be throwing a little something on Cincinnati to win the Super Bowl with these guys in place. I think there is a great chance every single year, no matter what you got on the defensive side. Obviously, tons of holes still on this roster you have to fill. But with these 3 guys, you get the best quarterback in the National Football League, the best wide receiver, and then another top 12, 15 receiver as well. Opens up the door for a lot of winning in your future. And obviously, this team has done it in the past. Got to get back to those winning ways. As an organization. Got a lot of Y's here in the comments section. Charles says, why Jamal? He's got his Cincos in the chat for T. Higgins. Kyle J., good question here, says, will they get the Trey Hendrickson deal done? I think so. That's where as we stand here on March 19th, I think Cincinnati will find a way to get it done. As of when, I don't know. But it's a little bit different with Trey Hendrickson. Not going to spend too much time talking about Trey Hendrickson on our live show, so I'll spend a couple of seconds here discussing that. It's a little bit different with Trey because really the Bengals have all the leverage in this situation. At the end of the day, Trey Hendrickson might just have to come back and play out his contract, because he in fact is under contract. It's not a situation with T. Higgins where you had already tagged him and then you did it again and, you wanted to show that, hey, we want you here for the long term. Obviously, you weren't going to mess around with Jamar any further. It's a little bit different with Trey Hendrickson, but I do remain optimistic that Cincinnati will be able to get that done when you're talking about Trey Hendrickson getting a long-term deal, but it is a lot tougher. The groundwork, I think, for Jamar and T's deals were kind of laid already. Just a matter of executing it. When you're talking about Trey Hendrickson, the production's so high, but the age is also high as well. Up there in his 30s at this point. Myles Garrett's no spring chicken either, and he got a ton of money. But then again, that's Cleveland. I don't think you ever want to model anything after what Cleveland does as an organization. But it'll be up to Cincinnati, obviously. Duke Tobin, Katie Blackburn, the whole front office, see if they can get something squared away with Trey Hendrickson. As we sit here, March 19th, I do think he gets a new deal in Cincinnati. Going to be talking a lot about the NFL draft here on today's live show. So name a player you want the Bengals to draft. Notice I didn't say at 17 overall necessarily. It could be anybody in the NFL draft. Maybe a guy that you think is going to be, a day 3 guy, but you really like him. You think he's a steal. Let me know in the comments of today's show. We'll kind of detail exactly what's coming up, but I'll just tell you guys right off the top here. I got a 7-round mock coming, segment 2 of this live show, so make sure you stick around for that. It's our second 7-round mock that we've done here at Bengals Breakdown, the first since the NFL Combine. So feel good about it in the beginning. I don't know how I feel about it in the end of the draft. Still haven't decided if I like the one we did today better than the one we did back in February, but you guys can be the judge if you stick around for that 7-round mock draft. It is 7 rounds. The Bengals only have 6 picks, so I guess it really is technically a 6-round mock. But let me know, get some names for me in the comments section. Truth Polar says James Pierce Jr. Certainly an interesting name. There's a lot of controversy when you hear from people around the league. Like, is this guy a lock to go in the first round? Could he slide into being a day 2 pick? Could he be a top 20 pick? There's a lot of questions when it comes to James Pierce Jr. Certainly needs to add some weight, add different elements to his game. Is the want and the will to be great? Is it there with James Pierce Jr.? I don't know. But certainly a guy that the Bengals are going to have on their board. We'll see if they end up taking him or not. Also, Tate Ratledge, that's a name I like a lot. The Georgia guard on this list. Probably could get him in round 3-ish, I would imagine. But Tate Ratledge is a guy that's played a lot of winning football at the collegiate level. Shamar Stewart, guy that we will be talking about here from Full Throttle Garage. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Shamar Stewart. So if you'd like him, make sure you stick around for today's show. But keep the comments coming. Let me know. Bengals edit says Max Christie. I don't think we're going to go get a basketball player, but that is funny. Bengals edits. Now, if you are ready for today's live show to start, give us a like. Hit that thumbs up icon for us. Got about 80 people and only 20 likes. Or was he going for that 50-50 ratio between viewership and likes? So let's hang out here for a minute. Let's make sure we at least get 25 likes here. At 21 right now. And once we hit that, I'll break down what we've got on tap here for today's live show. And there we go, right on cue, 26 likes. Bengals edit says, you never know. That's true. I guess you never do know at the end of the day. All right, coming up live here on Bengals Breakdown, segment 1. News and rumors, right? We're going to be talking Joe Burrow. We're going to be talking T. Higgins. We're going to be talking Jamar Chase. And segment 2, as I had teased a little bit earlier, 7-round mock draft for the Cincinnati Bengals. Go through all their picks, make selections, ran it through the PFF draft simulator, and it spit me out some, what I think, good results. But let me know what you guys think as far as how the draft went. But make sure you stick around for that 7-round mock draft. Segment 3, a mailbag, live mailbag. I've seen a couple of people get their questions in. Make sure you're using hashtag Bengals, or else my guy Chris can't find your comments when he's searching through everything. So get your questions in. Hashtag Bengals, segment 3, live mailbag. You can get them in right now. You don't have to stick around and wait to get those questions in. Once we start the mailbag, you can get them in as soon as possible. Or, of course, you can super chat, skip the line altogether. And to close out today's show, Mel Kiper Jr. and Daniel Jeremiah, they put out recent new mock drafts for the first round. We're going to be breaking down who they have the Bengals taken at number 17 overall. That's all coming up live here on Bengals Breakdown. Welcome into Bengals Breakdown. I am your host, Stone Shields. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on a Wednesday evening. Coming up on today's show, there is one pre-draft visit that has gone public for Cincinnati. It was reported in The Athletic. We're going to break down who the Bengals officially are going to be visiting with before the NFL draft. Also, some Joe Burrow news. He talked with Jeff Hobson after T. Higgins and Jamar Chase inked their deals yesterday at Paycor Stadium. There's also some other Joe Burrow news that we're going to talk about that I'm sure you guys have heard by now, but I'll have my thoughts on that and some more general conversation around T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, their press conference, and some takeaways that I have from that. But before we get into that, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at StoneShields_. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. Trying to get to 600 followers here by the end of the month of March. And we got a little bit of a ways to go. So help me out. Give me a follow at StoneShields_. All of our content will be there. All the updates from the beat reporters. I'll make sure I get that retweeted and things of that nature as well. So give me a follow right now. All right, the pre-draft visit that has gone public was reported in The Athletic. The Bengals are bringing in South Carolina safety Nick Amanwori per Josh Kendall of The Athletic. Now, you get 30 pre-draft visits, right? So they're going to meet with all the top guys. This is something that's going to happen. All the big names that I'm sure you guys are fired up about the prospect of the Bengals drafting, they're probably going to meet with them. But this does intrigue me a lot. A couple of reasons why. I was kind of worried that Cincinnati wasn't even going to consider taking a safety on the board at number 17, but it shouldn't be off the board for Cincinnati. Now, you don't want to draft necessarily by position. You don't want to go in the draft and say, hey, we're going to take, an edge rusher for sure and not look at any other guys that are available to you on the board. You're very much drafting, the player before the position. But as the way that Cincinnati has kind of operated, the things they've said in regards to Geno Stone and Jordan Battle, I thought they kind of felt comfortable at that safety spot, and I don't think they should be at all because I think there's two safeties in this draft that are really, really good and can play for your team right away. I'm really excited that they met or are going to meet with Nick Amanwori. Look, Amanwori is going to be a great player in the National Football League. I have no questions about that whatsoever. From South Carolina, came in, played for 3 years there. He's a big guy, right? He's kind of oversized, you could say, for a safety, but he still moves really, really well. He's really, really strong. Is there some questions if he's matched up, with an elite route running receiver? Absolutely, but he's great in the run game. Great tackler, something Cincinnati needs, and he absolutely hits people really, really hard, and I am fired up about this guy. And the prospect of getting him at number 17 does intrigue me, despite the fact Cincinnati, of course, needs another pass rusher to pair with Trey Hendrickson, if, of course, Trey Hendrickson is still with this football team. Geno Stone has been their guy that they brought in out of Baltimore. He played 1 year for Cincinnati last season. Still under contract here through 2025. I say he should be a cut candidate. I don't think many people around the organization believe that. I did not think he was very good at all last year for Cincinnati. Certainly came on at the end of the season, but again, you were playing some weaker competition there at the end of the season, and I think he kind of got bailed out by some bad quarterback play that kind of created some interceptions and PBUs for him. I don't think, he is certainly a strong point at all for your defense. I thought he was a weak point as well. Jordan Battle kind of had a rocky start to his year too, but I thought he finished the season really, really strong. Bottom line, I think you need to add somebody to this room, and really I think you need a new starter in this room as well. And I'm very intrigued by Nick Amanwori, and I'm really fired up that Cincinnati is going to visit with him. And if he's there at 17, if he's still available, I think you definitely need to consider him if you're Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, and company. Let me know what you guys think. Should the Bengals consider drafting a safety in round 1? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. All right, so Joe Burrow was at Paycor Stadium yesterday. He was not at the press conference for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but he met up with them in the locker room. I'm sure you've seen some of the clips on the Bengals social media. Pretty cool stuff, the three of them hanging out. Obviously, the three of them are very, very rich at this point. But he did have a conversation with Jeff Hobson, who does a tremendous job, senior writer for Bengals.com. And Hobson has a great piece up at Bengals.com. Really encourage you guys to check that out. But let's get into some of the quotes here that Joe Burrow gave to Jeff Hobson in regards to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. This is what Joe had to say. He said they're two of the best players at what they do. When you can re-sign guys like that and keep them around for an extended period of time, that gives you the best chance to go out and win Super Bowls and win a lot of games and win division championships. We got two of our best players re-signed. That's a big deal. Plus Mike G. We're doing the right thing. I think everybody was confident we get Jamar done, but to be able to get T done along with that speaks volumes about ownership, Duke, Zach, and their ability to get things done. All right, Duke Tobin also kind of put out a statement. Several people in the Bengals organization put out statements, and this one from Tobin really got me fired up. I think we're kind of seeing a different side of Duke Tobin, by the way, in recent weeks, and it started back at the NFL Combine. Here's what Tobin had to say in his statement. The Bengals have a long history of drafting and retaining elite wide receivers, and we're happy to continue that tradition with Jamar and T. We are known for our explosive, high-scoring offense, and Jamar and T are a big part of that identity. They earn these extensions with their abilities and promise for the future. We have our receivers. The rest of the league can go find their own. I'm standing by this comment. This is one of the biggest days in franchise history, and I'm so excited and fired up that Cincinnati was able to execute this and get it done. Again, there's going to be people nationally, maybe some locally, not a ton that I've heard, that are picking this apart from Cincinnati, saying, oh, they're paying way too much money to three guys on the offensive side of the ball. You're never going to be able to win a world championship like that. We'll see. We'll see if Cincinnati's right, or we'll see if the pundits out there are right. But I do think Duke Tobin and Katie Blackburn deserve a ton of credit here for the Cincinnati Bengals. We have ripped apart Bengals ownership, the way they handle things in the offseason, really how they operate at all times. 365 days throughout the year, we seemingly rip them. Got to give Katie Blackburn some love here, getting these deals done. Duke Tobin, of course, as well. I think there was a period there after the Combine where people maybe thought Duke Tobin was just kind of blowing smoke. No, he stood on business. He stayed by his words, and he got these contracts done with these two players. Now it's time to go out there and continue scoring mass points. That's what you have to do if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. There's no excuse on, they tried to take Jamar or T away in this game or anything like that. No, going forward, you got to go out there and you got to be at the top of the league. Literally number one in the league when it comes to your offense. You're paying for that. You have the ability to do it, and you've done it in the past. Just a matter of executing and going out there and keeping the main thing, not sagging off, still remaining incredibly focused out there even after these massive deals. And I'm very confident that Cincinnati, led, of course, by Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, will be able to get that done. More in a moment, but first, a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Do want to let you guys know that Bengals sideline hats are out now. They are available now. Chatsports.com/Bengals sideline. There's a bunch of them up there. I've got a few of these myself. Really like rocking them. You can, of course, wear them to a Bengals game in the future. You can wear a hat to work. Certainly could rip one there as well if you're just going to do it over the weekend. That obviously works additionally. Again, I got a few of these myself. Really encourage you guys to get some Cincinnati Bengals swag. Celebrate the extensions of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That link, by the way, will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. That's chatsports.com/Bengals sideline. All right, some more news in regards to Joe Burrow. It was announced earlier today that Joe Burrow will star in Season 2 of Netflix's quarterback documentary, or not documentary, I guess it's really more of a reality TV show, with Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins. This is going to be awesome. I think a part of us, all of us that love the Cincinnati Bengals and love Joe Burrow, there's always kind of a curious, mysterious side to Joe Burrow because he is so private, right? Well, we're going to dive into his life, and we're going to figure out what exactly he went through this past season. It was interesting. Back a couple of years ago, James Rapien asked him, this was the year going into 2023, the year where, of course, he ended up hurting his wrist, and then the calf was an issue at the beginning of the season. He asked him if Netflix had offered to go on Season 2. Burrow said they did, and he rejected it. He said maybe 1 year, maybe a couple of years down the road, but now's not the right time. Well, things change pretty quickly because only a year or so later he does it. These cameras followed him around throughout the entirety of the 2024 season. That's going to be awesome to see because Joe Burrow was balling out, but the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, were losing football games. It's going to be an incredible documentary, or I keep calling it a documentary. I don't think that's really the right word, but it's going to be an incredible Netflix series. Joe Burrow is going to be the star of it. And I'm kind of interested to see. Of course, Joe Burrow's house got burglarized. I don't know if that will find its way into the story or not, but comes out over the summer. I'm fired up about it. And all Bengals fans, I think, need to be tuned in to that. Also, more on the Joe Burrow front. He took to his Instagram story last night and said, he said Bengals versus Dolphins in Madrid, please be true. Obviously, there's been some rumblings that Cincinnati could perhaps be in line for that game, another international game that the NFL is doing. We've seen Joe Burrow go international, obviously, during the offseason. He seems to be pretty fired up about the prospect of going to Spain. As far as us as a fan base, kind of depends. If it's an away game, sure, but if that's a home game, I think this would be a home game for Miami. I do believe that is released. But if we're not losing out on a game here in Cincinnati, I mean, I don't see why that isn't a good thing for the Bengals. Growing the brand, going international, and perhaps playing in Madrid. I wouldn't say I feel strongly about it, but I definitely think it would be pretty cool if Cincinnati had that opportunity. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. How do you feel about this international stuff? Do you want to see the Bengals play in Madrid, or are you like, just stop with the international stuff, play in Cincinnati and play in whatever your opponent's stadium is here in the States? Let me know in the comments. Do you want the Bengals, or do you want to see the Bengals play in Madrid? Type A for yes or B for no. All right, before we get out of here on today's video, got a couple takeaways that I want to talk about from this press conference. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, again, encourage you guys to go up there and check that out if you have not done so already. It's on the Bengals Twitter. James Rapine's got it as well. But takeaway number one, they clearly want to be here, which I questioned, with T. Higgins in the past. Did T. Higgins really want to stay here in Cincinnati, or did he want to go somewhere else? After the press conference, very clear. T. Higgins wanted to be here, and Jamar Chase wanted to be here as well. And you should feel good about the Bengals paying guys like this. Again, if you watch the press conference, they just seem like, obviously they were, on their best behavior, right? Because they had just signed massive deals, but they just seem like great guys, down-to-earth guys, and obviously they're very, very talented. You don't want to pay bums a bunch of money, right? And I don't think these guys aren't bums at all. They seem to be very stand-up guys, and, they've done good things obviously for the team, but hopefully it kind of continues to grow with what they do in the community. I know T. Higgins has done his youth football camp that's been outstanding as well, so really just hope for them to continue doing what they're doing, and I think we all should be proud that these are the kinds of guys that Cincinnati is paying, because they seem to be made out of the right stuff. There also is clearly a desire to win. That's number one here for all of us, right? They got their money, but they want to sit here and win a world championship. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, they could have gotten their money anywhere. They're doing it here in Cincinnati because they think, one, that's the team, of course, that drafted them, but they want to be here with Joe Burrow. They believe in Zach Taylor. They believe in this organization, and they want to win more than anything in the world, and that is the main thing for me. It's not, obviously, they're going to celebrate their money. That's great for them. But the number one thing here is winning, and they clearly are prioritizing that based on what I heard at the press conference. Last thing here, definitely going to need more leadership, and this is something that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase talked about, something that Zach Taylor talked about as well. When you get this kind of contract, when you get this kind of money, you got to take the next step. And I don't know necessarily if Jamar Chase and T. Higgins these past years, I don't know if they're really leaders. Like, they've led by their actions and their performance on the football field, but they're going to need to do a lot more at practice, in the locker room, helping these young guys along. And when things aren't going the right way, they need to be, look, there's going to be adversity throughout an NFL season, right? And when that's happening, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase need to do a good job of doing that. If there's one knock on Jamar Chase, it's that when things aren't going his way, he has a tendency to maybe not handle them correctly, maybe do a little bit of pouting. And that can't be happening at this point after you get that kind of contract. He better be an outstanding teammate and a great leader for this football team, and I do have confidence that he'll be able to do that. Make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. We are here all off season long. Don't miss any of our content. YouTube.com/BengalsTV. All right, will the Cincinnati Bengals win a Super Bowl in the next 4 to 5 years? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up icon. There he is. Our guy Tim Tyra has rolled in here. Appreciate you hanging out, Tim. Chris just said his favorite part was Jamar bashing Skyline. I mean, he kind of bashed everything. Bashed everything from a Cincinnati eating perspective. I've never been to New Orleans, but, I mean, what they got going down there is definitely totally different than what we've got going up here. He did act like there was nothing to do up here, which I get it. It's not Miami or L.A. or New York or something like that, but there's still fun stuff to do around here. We got a question here from Marduk. I apologize if I'm butchering that name. Have you noticed that the NFL talking heads who said for months that Cincinnati could never get these guys signed are now saying it's a huge mistake? Laughable. Yes, absolutely. Spot on comment there. Yeah, couldn't agree with that more. At first it was, they're never going to get it done, and now it's, they're stupid. Why in the world would they do this? So For whatever reason, the national media has seemingly had it out against the Cincinnati Bengals, but I don't know. We'll see. They're probably going to continue to act like that until Cincinnati wins the Super Bowl, so we'll see if they can get it done. All right, so let me know in the comments, will Cincinnati get one in the next 4 or 5 years? And if Chris is good to go, he is, we will get into our second segment here, which is a 7-round mock draft. So stick around for that. Bengals fans, what's going on? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And coming up on today's show, we are doing our second 7-round mock draft. We have one that went out in February before the NFL Combine, and this is our first one since the NFL Combine. No trades again, by the way, in this one. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do one with trades. I'm kind of hesitant because Cincinnati probably isn't going to make one, but if enough of you guys want me to do one with trades, I certainly will do that. And as we've discussed at length here on Bengals Breakdown, there's a lot of pressure on Cincinnati in this draft, especially after inking T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, the massive contracts. Got to get things right, particularly on the defensive side of the ball and the offensive line. We'll see if Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, and company are up for the task. Before we get into this mock draft, though, hit that sub button if you haven't done so already, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Next milestone here is 18,000 subscribers. I know we can get this by the end of the month of March. So we're filming this here on March 19th, and it's going to go out a little bit beyond that. But regardless, hit that sub button. Less than 400 away from making that happen. We're here all off season long, and we've got a bunch of Bengals NFL draft content coming your guys' way. This is only the beginning. Help us out and subscribe today. All right, so let's get into these picks here from the simulator. Again, I ran these through PFF Draft Sim. Nothing crazy, all the normal, when setting up the draft, it wasn't anything crazy, just kind of the normal settings. That was the word I was looking for there. Normal settings here for this mock draft. Cam Ward going one. Surprise, right off the bat here. Armand Membou, I think the world of Armand Membou, but for Cleveland, they got all kinds of issues. I mean, you're grabbing an offensive lineman, great. Who's he going to protect? I really don't know. But Armand Membou's sensational. Don't really get the fit there with Cleveland. Travis Hunter, number 3. Ashton Jeanty, 4. Mason Graham, 5. Abdul Carter, 6. Will Campbell slides down to that number 7 spot. Jahai Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama, at number 8, a guy that we've talked at length about here on Bengals Breakdown. Tyler Warren to number 9 to the Saints. Nick Amanwari, number 10 to the Chicago Bears. Mike Green, 11 to the Niners. Michael Williams, 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. 4 more here before we get to Cincinnati's selection. Teteroa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. He goes to Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. Shamar Stewart, guy that has gotten linked to the Cincinnati Bengals a lot, 14 to the Colts. Donovan Ezeraku, edge rusher out of Boston College, going 15 to the Falcons. And Jedi Barron going 16 to the Arizona Cardinals. That leads us to the Cincinnati Bengals in the 17th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Who am I going with? Jalen Walker is who I'm going with. Shoot, if he falls to number 17, I am all over that. The Bengals, of course, need another pass rusher, and I think he would fit in perfectly with this defense. He can do so many different things out on the football field. He isn't certainly a one-trick pony by any stretch of the imagination. You can line him up in different spots. He's an outside linebacker. You could line him up there next to Logan Wilson. He could do some good things for you in coverage. He can rush the quarterback, as we've discussed. He is a freakish athlete, and he really was outstanding for Georgia in his time there, 3 years under Kirby Smart. I think the world of Kirby Smart. I think a lot of people in the comments are banging on me for liking Georgia guys too much, but these guys know how to play winning football, and these guys translate to the NFL. Just look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Walker would be a steal and a half at number 17 overall for the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of people have him getting mocked inside the top 10, and I caught a break here in this PFF draft, and he happened to slide down to that number 17 overall selection. I think if he's there, you certainly take him, and it's really not much of a question. Maybe if Armand Membou is there as well, then that's kind of a debate between those two. But I really like Jalen Walker and would be thrilled to absolutely have him as a Cincinnati Bengal. All right, other guys on the board here at that pick. Now, that first guy is going to pop out to a lot of people, pops out to myself a lot. I love Malachi Starks, but if Jalen Walker is there, his fellow Georgia Bulldog, I don't know if you can take Malachi Starks. Now, if Walker's off the board, Malachi Starks is probably my top guy. Love Malachi Starks, but Jalen Walker a little bit more in the position of need, certainly. factors into that as well. James Pierce Jr., another guy we've talked about, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson, Tyler Booker, all guys that are elite football players that would be available in this draft that I passed up on for Jalen Walker. Pin comment time on today's show. Would you draft Jalen Walker at number 17 overall? Let me know in the comments section. Type Y for yes or N for no. And if that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. You can ignore it, take advantage of it, get down in the comments, let us know what you think. Moving on here to round 2. Not going to go through all the picks, obviously, in round 2, but we will do some recent picks here. Got Donovan Jackson, 43 to the Niners. We got Princely U, we'll call him, 44 to the Dallas Cowboys. Linebacker out of UCLA, Carson Schlesinger. To the Indianapolis Colts, Javon Ravel, 46 out of East Carolina to the Falcons. Xavier Watts, I think a lot of people were hoping the Bengals could get him in the second round. He goes a couple of picks too early in this mock, out of Notre Dame, of course, Al Golden Ties. Trey Amos, bit of a surprise there, 48 overall, cornerback out of Ole Miss. Round 2, pick 49. Who am I going with? Well, Cincinnati needs an interior offensive lineman. And hopefully, by the time this video is out, the Bengals will have already signed Brandon Scherf, but I don't necessarily have high hopes for that happening. I'm going with Jonah Savaiinaea here, offensive lineman out of Arizona. Now, by the way, this is a guy that played tackle in college, but he's going to play guard in the NFL, and that, of course, is what the Bengals need. Bengals need to allocate a top pick to their offensive line. They absolutely have to. You're not feeling great if you have to roll out a guy like Jonah Savaiinaea immediately. In the NFL season, you would like to have, a veteran that comes in, 1-year deal, he starts, and then maybe halfway through the season, a guy like Savaiinaea can take over for him. But he's a guy that's played a lot of football at Arizona from Hawaii. He's a very durable guy, and he's good in pass pro. There's definitely some concerns with him in the run game, and he kind of lacks some of that athletic juice, you could say. But I think Savaiinaea can do a nice job of pass blocking. He's great in those kind of combined situations when he was at a tackle, so I don't think switching over to guard is going to be much of an issue for him. PFF, by the way, did not like this pick for me. Actually graded it at an F, if you can believe that, but I actually think Savaiinaea has a lot of upside, and I think he could fit in well. It just comes down to whether or not Scott Peters can develop him to the point where he can go out there and be a starter for you at that offensive line spot. Other guys that were available there in the second round for Cincinnati, JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. I know some people potentially are excited about him. Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State. Benjamin Morrison, I thought long and hard about taking him. Obviously, Al Golden Ties there. Cameron Williams, guy that kind of was surprised to see on the board still. And Marcus Bowe out of Purdue also, guys. But I went with Jonah Savaiinaea there in the second round. We'll continue with our mock draft here in a minute, but first, a shout-out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The app is really easy to use. To create a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. They also have the Flex Play. This is our season-long Flex Play here at PrizePicks that we threw together at Chat Sports. Jack Lauderay, our baseball guy, threw this one together, going with the more than for Paul Skeens on his strikeouts, as well as Tarek Skubal as well with his strikeouts, and the more than on Jarren Duran's home runs. Baseball season right around the corner. I'm pretty fired up about it. Make sure you guys check out the Flex Play. Also some season-long opportunities there with the Flex Play as well. The best place to cash in on all your favorite sports. Don't miss your chance to cash in as the NBA's best fight for playoff positioning right now as we kind of get towards a playoff push in the NBA as well. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, we'll go a little bit quicker here throughout the remainder of the draft. This is what we're looking like here. Recent picks in round 3. Benjamin Morrison just went off the board to the Dallas Cowboys. And you can see some other guys along that list there as well. Won't read them all off, but I'm going with, again, round 3, Lathan Ransom. Now, I told myself, if you watched our mock draft that came out in February, I said I wasn't going to do any repeat picks. But then Lathan Ransom was just staring me back in the face once again in that round 3 spot. And I couldn't pass up on him because I really think Cincinnati needs to add a safety in this draft, preferably in the first 3 rounds. Lathan Ransom's a guy that's played a ton of football for Ohio State, plays at a high level. He's played in big games, and he hits people hard. That is my favorite part about his game. Is he fine in coverage? Yeah, sure, but he will absolutely lay the wood on somebody, and I think that's going to translate really well into the NFL. I think he can be a really good NFL player, to be completely honest with you. Is he going to be a star? No, but I think he could be a really solid player, and that's what Cincinnati is looking for at that safety spot because they really haven't gotten good play from their safeties since Jesse Bates walked out the door several years ago. Would you draft Lathan Ransom in round 3? Let me know in the comments. Type A for yes or B for no. I really like this one here. Round 4, Tyler Batty, edge out of BYU. He's got a relentless motor, and he's got 3-down potential. Now, you may not have heard of Tyler Batty, but he can really get after the passer, and he can really develop into a guy that is out there for, not just being a 3rd-down specialist. He can do a lot of good things out there. He's incredible off the field as well. He's a great leader in their community, played a lot of football for BYU. Was there all 4 years and really just continually got better year after year. He kind of reminds me of George Karlaftis a little bit. I know that's crazy because Karlaftis is such a good player. Not many people were talking about Tyler Batty, but if you pair him up with Trey Hendrickson, I think you could be brewing something special if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, you need to get better at this spot. You got Joseph Osai, who's back on a 1-year deal. Cam Sample, I'm excited about the fact that he is back on a 1-year deal for Cincinnati, but you got to be able to put somebody out there next to Trey Hendrickson. And shoot, if you lose Trey Hendrickson, you're obviously in a world of trouble when it comes to that pass rusher spot. Round 5, going with another offensive lineman here, Tyler Cooper out of Minnesota. He's not the best athlete, and he's got a lot of work to do when it comes to his run blocking. But his pass blocking is there. And obviously, Cincinnati, fresh off these deals for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they're going to be throwing that ball around the yard a lot. And if you are a guy that can go in there and play really well in a pass blocking situation, that obviously would benefit the Cincinnati Bengals. Tyler Cooper's massive, and he's got really long arms. I'm not one of those guys that fully dives into, all the traits or whatever, but the fact that he's got super long arms, that can make up for some of the lack of athleticism that he has. And I think, he's probably going to go a little bit earlier than some people think because of those traits, and I think it could be very beneficial for Cincinnati. Obviously, you need to find a guard. If you're picking at this point in the draft, you're not confident that you can go out there and start a guy like this immediately. But, look, you can't run it back with Cody Ford and Cordell Volson. If you don't get someone in free agency, you're going to have to pick at least one, probably multiple in the draft. But hopefully it's only a matter of time before Cincinnati signs somebody at that guard spot. Last pick here, Cincinnati, of course, doesn't have a 7th-round pick at this time because of the Khalil Herbert trade at the deadline last season. Howard Cross III had to throw a Notre Dame guy here into this mock. I feel like it would just kind of be silly not to, right? Al Golden's coming in. He's coached these guys for a long time. I think it could really benefit your defense, especially at the end of the draft, where Golden knows how to, get the best out of some of these guys. Going with Howard Cross III. He's very undersized when you're talking about a defensive tackle, but he was Notre Dame's. He was named their defensive lineman of the year and continually got better during his time at Notre Dame. He was there for 6 seasons, played a lot of football, didn't play a ton his first couple of years, but just kept going at it, kept working. His dad, of course, was a tight end in the NFL, really good tight end. And I think you could perhaps consider him a steal if you got him in the 6th round. And, again, he's undersized, but he is a relentless guy. He's got a motor as well. And he's probably more of just kind of you throw him in there on 3rd down, let him get after the passer kind of situation. I don't think at this point he's going to really be able to do much from a run game perspective for you. And he's definitely going to be a rotational piece. But I think he could offer some pressure from the middle. And Cincinnati didn't get any pressure at all from the interior of their defensive line and seemingly haven't in quite some time. Little recap here. This is what we got. Jalen Walker in the 1st round. Obviously, that is the pick I'm most fired up about out of the 6 that I made. If he can fall to 17, I think that is a great thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. Jonas Savaiinaea lineman out of Arizona. Lathan Ransom, safety out of Ohio State. Tyler Batty, another edge guy out of BYU, who I'm really excited about. Tyler Cooper, another interior offensive lineman out of Minnesota. And then Howard Cross III, rounding out my Bengals mock draft in the 6th round. Let me know. Get your grades for me in the comments section of today's show. Grade this Bengals mock draft A, B, C, D, or F in the comments right now. All right, it is mailbag time. Get your questions in. Hashtag Bengals or Super Chat. Don't have any of those to this point. Get a little breather here as we get ready for our mailbag. Make sure you get your questions in. Let me know. What do you guys think about that mock draft? Jose was not a fan. Tim Tyre says B. Michael Hall says B as well. Derek Young says A. I feel like it's probably, I would probably give it a B minus, C plus, somewhere in there. Because, you have one less pick, right? Hopefully you can flip Pratt for a 7th. That would be nice. Get another pick back. I think the Jalen Walker pick's great. And then the second one is kind of, you need an offensive lineman. And, there's red flags there with Savanaia, but I think he could really fit in well with Scott Peters and what Cincinnati's trying to do here. So it's definitely kind of a risk to take him, but I like him. And Ransom in the 3rd round. I'm sure all the Ohio State people in here like that. I don't know what NFL people necessarily would say. Tyler Batty is a steal for me out of BYU. I'm really fired up about him. And then from there, obviously, you're trying to hit on a late-round pick, which is something that Cincinnati needs to do. And we'll ultimately see if that culminates for the Bengals. All right. Chris, how are we looking? Do we have enough questions? We got plenty of them in there? We got enough. So remember, get your questions in. Hashtag Bengals or Super Chat. Skip the line altogether. And we will get started here with segment 3, our live mailbag. Before we get into our mailbag, make sure you guys share today's video for me on social media if you have not done so already. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, it works for us. Just trying to get the word out there to more Bengals fans that aren't necessarily tapped in to what we are doing here at Bengals Breakdown. So help me out. Try to share today's video for me right now. All right, Bengals Edits gets us started here with this mailbag. Do you think realistically the Bengals sign another free agent or pick someone up in a trade situation, or is this the final team plus whoever we draft? They will add somebody. Not exactly sure who or when. Hopefully it's Brandon Scherff. Hopefully by the time this video is out, he's already been signed. But I think you need to add another veteran. It feels like the cornerback room is kind of filled out, but I think you can add another guy, and then you're going to cut somebody, obviously, cut multiple people down the line. But you need a couple more veterans in the back end of your defense and your offensive line. So I think they will make another signing at some point. Probably isn't going to be someone that you've heard of or that's going to blow you away, but I would look for Cincinnati to add another piece at some point here down the line. Good question here from Cobra Kai Zone. Do we keep Geno Stone? I think the answer is yes, but I would not. I would move off Geno Stone. I think you got to lick your wounds. I was excited last offseason when you got him. I thought he was going to be great for you, and he wasn't. I think you got to move on, right? I think you need some more people. More fresh bodies need to get into the mix. You're already bringing back a couple of guys, Joseph Osai, B.J. Hill. You can't just run this defense back with a new guy calling the shots and now Golden. I think Golden's going to be love Lou and what he was able to accomplish. I think Golden's going to be a step up for this Bengals defense in terms of him calling the shots, but you need new personnel as well. You can't just run it back with the same guys and hope for different results. I would move on from him, but I don't think Cincinnati is going to make that call. Shelly Meyer, will the Bengals win a Super Bowl in the next 4 to 5 years? You better believe it, Shelly. I think Cincinnati will be able to get it done in the next 4 or 5 years. Look, as long as Joe Burrow's healthy, there is always a chance. But now he's not just healthy, he's also happy, right? Because he locked his boys in, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You've got that unit for 4 years. Obviously, Joe and Jamar, you got him for 5. I think Cincinnati is going to be able to get it done. I think they're going to have a great chance every single season. You cross your fingers that everybody is able to stay healthy, but I think it's only a matter of time before Cincinnati gets over the hump, gets this thing done. But there is a lot of pressure on this unit. They can't mess around and miss the playoffs next year, right? That has to be bare minimum. You get into the playoffs. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're scrapping to get into the playoffs in the final weeks of the season. If you start out, you play the football that you're supposed to play with the roster that you have early in September, give yourself, a good spot to win the division and not just sneak in from a wild card spot perspective. I think you're going to find yourself a good opportunity to win a Super Bowl in the next 4 or 5 years. I absolutely think Cincinnati will get it done. Pin comment time. What do you guys think? Will the Bengals win a Super Bowl in the next 4 to 5 years? Let me know in the comments of today's show. If that ad comes here on YouTube, it's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Ignore it. Down in the comments. Let us know what you think. Ooh, CWT. What's your dream but realistic number 17 pick? I would say I have a couple of them. I'm going to give you 3 names. First off, Jalen Walker would be a guy that I really like. I think he can play multiple different positions. That's kind of the thing that intrigues me the most about him. He can offer help at linebacker as well as get after the quarterback as a pass rusher. Armand Membu, as time continues to go on, I think there's a less likely chance that he's going to be available at pick number 17. People at the Combine were absolutely raving about that guy. Played 1 year at guard for Missouri, 2 years at tackle for Missouri as well. Obviously, if he came to Cincinnati, he would be playing guard. He's a guy that I really like a lot as well. And my third guy would be Malachi Starks, another Georgia guy. I think you need a new help at safety. I think Malachi Starks is ready to play in the NFL yesterday, and I think he's going to be a really, really good player and have a really, really good career. And I think he can give you an impact immediately, which is what Cincinnati should be looking for in the first round, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So those are the 3 guys I would say: Jalen Walker, Armand Membu, and Malachi Starks. Zane Brewer, do you think Trey gets extended? I do. Now, it's a bit different than the situations with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Again, there's not really a blueprint for what the contract looks like at this point for Trey Hendrickson, because it's kind of uncharted territory. You got an age that's up there in his 30s, just turned 30, right? But or 30, 31, somewhere in that ballpark. But the production is through the roof. 17.5 sacks back-to-back seasons. Certainly deserves to be compensated for that. The way his agent has kind of, he went out there and he was like, tried to, the Bengals gave him permission to seek a trade, right? Well, how did that go? Not well for Trey Hendrickson, right? Because teams don't want to give up a first-round pick and pay him. And that's what, Cincinnati was, asking for, essentially, if they were to move off of him. So now the Bengals have all the leverage in this situation, and there is a real possibility where the Bengals just say, sorry, you just got to play out your contract. But I do think the goal is to, find a way to extend him. So if they can meet in the middle, find a good number that benefits not only Hendrickson but the team, I think they will. So to answer your question directly, I do think they will get it done here before the season. When? I can't tell you that. We'll continue with more questions here in a minute. But first, a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. I want to let you guys know that Bengals sideline hats are out now. They are available now. Get yours today. Chatsports.com/Bengals sideline. Obviously, it is the offseason. That doesn't mean you can't get some Cincinnati Bengals swag, courtesy of our friends over at Fanatics. Got a few of these myself. Really enjoy rocking them. Any occasion they work. Also got other cool stuff there up at Fanatics. Quarter zips, hoodies, sweatshirts, you name it. They've got it over at Fanatics. But these hats in particular, really encourage you guys to check those out. Chatsports.com/Bengals sideline. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Chuck, you think the Bengals could only get a 7th for a starting linebacker? It's a good question. Considering that Pratt has not been traded yet at this point, yeah, I mean, it's probably looking like only a 7th round pick, maybe a 6th round pick. But, the market for Jermaine Pratt at this point doesn't appear that there are many teams that are out there, because I think they understand that, hey, Cincinnati's going to cut him, so we can probably get him, after he gets cut, as opposed to giving up draft capital. So that's kind of the situation I feel like. I don't know if Cincinnati's going to be able to flip him, and it feels inevitable they are going to cut him and that he'll be playing elsewhere next season. Fabian, who will make the biggest year 2 leap? It's a good question. Several guys you could put into this bucket. I'm actually going to go with the guy that they took in the first round, which is crazy because he was great for you last year. I think Amarius Mims is a budding superstar there at that right tackle spot. We'll see how long Orlando Brown Jr. is in Cincinnati, right? But he's a guy that if you lose Orlando Brown Jr. in the coming years, he might be your left tackle of the future. I think the world of Amarius Mims. Again, he was great last season. I think he's going to be even better this year, and I think he's going to make a massive leap. So you could have said, a guy like Josh Newton or Chris Jenkins, obviously. McKinley Jackson, certainly a candidate as well. Maybe Jermaine Burton, but most likely not. But I'm going to go with Amarius Mims. Was great, but I think he's going to be even better for this Bengals team in 2025. Name a player, second-year player, that you are excited about. Get some names for me down in the comments section. You with me? Is it Mims? Is it Josh Newton? Is it Chris Jenkins Jr.? Is it McKinley Jackson? Let me know what you guys think in the comments of today's show. CWT, what's your opinion on how they have handled the offseason so far? Good question here from CWT. You got to understand that you got to use some context here. It's the Cincinnati Bengals we're talking about. We're not talking about Baltimore, right? We're talking about Cincinnati. So for Cincinnati, I think it's been good considering what has been able to get done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Duke Tobin made those comments at the Combine. I said, okay, great, but I didn't expect those deals to get done till the summer. And they got done several days ago, here in March. So I think that was a massive win. Now, was it a little frustrating that they couldn't get it done literally a week earlier so you could have more of a gauge in terms of your cap, what your cap hit, your cap space was going to look like for free agency? Yeah, it's a little frustrating. They couldn't get it done a week earlier than that, but shoot, they got it done. And they went out there and they paid these guys. Cincinnati does not do this kind of stuff, and they went out there and they did it. So I am very pleased about that. As far as where free agency is at this point, I'm not very excited about it, I guess you could say. I'm over the moon about Jamar and T, and then what they've done apart from that. We'll talk about B.J. Hill real quick. Bengals, everybody in Cincinnati loves B.J. Hill. He's a big part of the playoff runs, but I think we all were kind of expecting, thank you, we love you, but we're going to move on, and now we're running it back with him. So it's like, okay, all right, that's fine. Then Osai's coming back as well in a one-year deal. I was not fired up about that. I would have moved off of Osai. And then Oren Burks is, had postseason success with Philadelphia, obviously. But he's kind of your linebacker 3. Slayton is the guy that I am the most excited about out of Green Bay. Interior is going to be your nose tackle, so I really like that. But overall, I would say probably B, but it certainly would be a D if you didn't get Jamar and T done, to answer your question. So how things have gone so far is definitely reflected off of getting Jamar Chase and T. Higgins done. That's why I would give it a B. Beyond that, it would probably be a D. If you are enjoying this mailbag, we appreciate it. Sub now for more. We will be here all off season long. Don't miss out on any of our mailbags. We'll be doing these, filming these every Wednesday, and they'll go out over the weekend. So help us out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Colin, do you think Battle will start next year? I do. Considering where things are at, I think they're going to roll out Jordan Battle at that safety spot, that strong safety spot, probably opposite Geno Stone, which I would have liked to mix up that room a little bit, but at this point, it doesn't feel like Cincinnati's going to do it. There's nobody really in free agency that fires me up a ton, but in the draft, there's 2 guys, right, Nick Amamori and Malachi Starks, that I would love to bring in, but I definitely would expect Jordan Battle to go out there and start. And I was pleased with the way he finished the season, but definitely need a lot more consistency out of him. Natty Native Noise says, what are your thoughts on all the criticism that the Bengals overpaid T and Chase? I think it's ridiculous. Honestly, T. Higgins would have got way more than that on the open market, right? I think he would have been well into the $30 million per year figure, and the Bengals were able to get him for less than that. So, look, this is what Cincinnati needed to do. This is what Joe Burrow wanted them to do. And when you're Joe Burrow and you play at such an elite level and you have that kind of pool, you gotta listen to your quarterback, especially early on. You don't want to, create friction in that relationship between the star quarterback and the organization. Cincinnati absolutely did the right thing here, and I think they're going to be able to win football games. You saw Indianapolis years ago do it with Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison. Obviously, it was a different era, but you can win when you have firepower like this on offense. You just got to be able to draft and develop well. We'll see if Cincinnati is able to get that done. Would you draft Jalen Walker at number 17 overall? Let me know in the comments of today's video. If he's available, would you take him? Totally agree, Zane. They would have criticized us if we didn't pay him. It's just kind of how it goes. Colin says he's fired up about Jenkins. My guy Tim Tyre says Fig Newton. I like that answer. Dr. B says Fig Newton as well. Tim says, how come you don't wear your Bengals sideline hat? I don't wear the hat on air. Just not something I've ever done. Just yeah, Chris says that with the lights, it kind of looks a little weird if you throw a ball cap on as well. And Chris said he tried it one time, so yeah, there we go. CWT says, are you going to watch quarterback? Heck yeah, I'm going to watch quarterback. It's going to be incredible. Kathy says, do you think Jahad Campbell will fall to the Bengals in the second round? Unfortunately, no. Well, actually, it's funny you say that. I would say no, but Chris, of course, our producer, is the host of the Alabama Football Report, and he was telling me today that at Alabama's Pro Day, Jahad Campbell was in a sling and had, what was it, a partially torn labrum? Is that right? Partially torn labrum. So maybe that will scare some teams off. Kind of at this point, it kind of felt like he was going to be a lock for the first round, but we'll see how teams respond to that injury. If they're scared about the injury, then certainly he could perhaps fall to the second round. I love Malachi Starks, but I love Jahad Campbell, and I think he would be incredible next to Logan Wilson. So very much intrigued by that possibility. We had a super chat here that we will get to on Bengals Breakdown. I haven't had a super chat in a while, and it's from my guy that was with us all season long during our watch parties, and he is back, giving a $2 super chat, and his name is Desert Ranger Jesus. What's up, brother? Haven't heard from you in a bit. Hope you're doing well. Jesus, thank you for the $2 super chat. It says, I'm feeling the depth we have at DT now. Yeah, well, the Bengals definitely addressed that during free agency. So you feel better about DT, certainly, than you did last year, right? Slayton's going to be a massive upgrade from Sheldon Rankins. And you're bringing back B.J. Hill. And then you got two guys that you drafted early last year that you're hoping make big year two jumps in Chris Jenkins Jr. and McKinley Jackson. So you got to feel a lot better about where you're at from an interior perspective. I wouldn't draft. Again, you're not drafting necessarily for a position, but I would probably stay off drafting a DT at 17 unless somebody absolutely fires you up there. But, yeah, I think you're in a good spot at DT at this point. All right, we got one more segment coming your guys' way. Going to round out our live show here today. Hope you guys stick around. Still got over 100 people watching, so appreciate all you for doing that. Hope you have enjoyed it thus far. Mel Kiper Jr. and Daniel Jeremiah have released new round one mocks that we are going to break down here. Our final segment of Bengals Breakdown. What's going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking Mel Kiper Jr. We're going to be talking Daniel Jeremiah. They recently have put out new round one mocks after the NFL Combine. We're going to be breaking down who they have Cincinnati picking at that number 17 overall selection. Before we get into that, make sure you guys name a player you want the Bengals to draft. Notice I just said name a player. It doesn't have to be at 17 overall. Name a player. Could be a guy that's going to go day 3 that you think is going to be a great steal. Let me know. Name a player you want the Bengals to draft in the 2025 NFL Draft. All right, so we're going to break this down here. And we got Kiper's guys on the left, and we've got DJ's guys on the right. So consensus there at number 1, Cam Ward. Consensus there at number 2 as well, Abdul Carter. 3 as well, Shedeur Sanders. And guess what? Oh, yeah, we have consensus at number 4 additionally with Travis Hunter. None of that really impacts Cincinnati there at 17. Moving on to Jacksonville at number 5. This is where we get our first disagreement. Again, we got Kiper on the left and DJ on the right. Kiper, Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Jalen Walker off the board for Daniel Jeremiah at number 5. Back to agreeing here at 6. Ashton Jeanty. It feels a little early for a running back. Vegas certainly could use one. They've got Genty going to Vegas there at 6. Tyler Warren for Kiper and Armand Membu. For Daniel Jeremiah going to the New York Jets. Now Kiper's got Jalen Walker going to Carolina. And Mason Graham is who DJ has there at that 8 spot, getting closer to that number 17 overall selection. Oh, my goodness. Jackson Dart, number 9 overall, according to Mel Kiper Jr. How about that? Not exactly sure that would be a great pick by New Orleans, but regardless, Jahad Campbell going number 9 there for DJ. Chicago, Michael Williams and Will Campbell, respectively, for those 2 guys. Armand Membu still on the board for Mel Kiper. He mocks him to the 49ers. Jedi Barron going to the San Francisco 49ers in DJ. Now we get to Dallas at 12. Amarian Hampton for Kiper and Matthew Golden for the Dallas Cowboys. Keep in mind, all these guys that are going off the board, there's a lot of guys that we just talked about there that we would love to have here in Cincinnati, but according to Mel Kiper Jr. and Daniel Jeremiah, they will be unavailable. There goes Malachi Starks, another name we all like as well, from DJ. Will Campbell getting Kiper getting Will Campbell there at 13 for Miami. Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren off the board now for these 2 guys. Mike Green and Will Johnson off the board. Mike Green off the board for Kiper. Johnson off for DJ. And then Johnson then goes from Kiper at 16 to Arizona. And Gray Zabel, how about that, 16 overall. He's fighting his way into these round 1 mocks now. And kind of interesting that DJ's got him going 16 before Cincinnati picks. Okay, break down the top 5, in my opinion, guys that are available in Mel Kiper's mock draft. Again, we're kind of doing these here at the same time on today's show. Shamar Stewart, Jahad Campbell, Jahdae Barron, Malachi Starks, James Pierce Jr., all guys that I could see potentially going to suit up for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's take a look at Daniel Jeremiah. The top 5 that he had still on his board there for 17. The Bengals picking there. Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Nick Amanwari, Mike Green, and Maxwell Hairston. So plenty of good players available in both of these mock drafts for Cincinnati to take at 17. So in these scenarios, breaking down all the guys that are gone and all the guys that, in my opinion, are the best available for both of them. You don't necessarily have to pick a guy that I had as one of the top 5 best available for both, but let me know at the pinned comment. Who would you take in round 1 in these scenarios? Get a name for us down in the comments of today's show. All right, here we go. The great reveal. This is what we've got here. Mel Kiper Jr. as Cincinnati taking Shamar Stewart, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. Daniel Jeremiah also has Cincinnati taking an edge rusher, but this one is Mike Green out of Marshall. Let's start with Mel Kiper, and let's start with Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart is quite interesting. There are some people that believe that he is going to go in the top 10. Some people even think he's going to go in the top 6 or 7. And then there's some people that say he could be available for you at the end of the first round. He might be available in the second round as well. He is the traits guy, right, that people talk about. What he's able to do from an athletic perspective is pretty freakish. And people at the Combine absolutely were raving about it. Let's take a look at what Mel Kiper Jr. had to say about Shamar Stewart perhaps landing in Cincinnati. I think this is pretty good analysis here from Mel. He said, Stewart is one of my LTP guys in the class. He looks the part. His physical traits, as we saw at the Combine, will get the interest of teams seeking pass rushers. He leaped 40 inches in the vertical jump and ran a 4.59 second 40. But will the traits translate into production in the pros? His 4.5 sacks over 3 college seasons are unexpected from a player of his talent. If he puts it all together, though, Stewart has the upside to become a double-digit sack guy. Double-digit sacks sound pretty good in Cincinnati right now. Bengals have been active in keeping their own this month, inking wide receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to big deals and re-signing defensive tackle B.J. Hill. But they haven't yet extended Trey Hendrickson, and losing him, he did request a trade, would be devastating for one of the league's most underwhelming defenses. Hendrickson had 17.5 of the team's 36 sacks last season. Stewart could help give the Bengals another pass rush contributor or help fill the void if Hendrickson does end up elsewhere. I thought that was really, really good analysis from Mel Kiper, really breaking that down, what Shamar Stewart could potentially offer the Cincinnati Bengals football team. What's your one-word reaction to Kiper's comments? Let me know in the comments right now. All right, let's take a look here at the relative athletic score for Shamar Stewart. Some of these numbers absolutely jump off the board. What we talked about there with the 40-yard dash, pretty freakish that an edge rusher can run around like that out on the football field. Pretty incredible stuff. Now, the production obviously is the question mark, right? This is a guy that was a 5-star coming out of high school. Everybody was raving about him coming out of Florida. And then the production there at Texas A&M, he was able to work his way into the lineup as a freshman, and the sack numbers just really weren't there. A guy that has so much talent, you would think that he would be able to produce more than 4.5 sacks across 3 seasons of collegiate football. Some people kind of argue, it's the way, Texas A&M deployed him, or, he was getting, double teamed, of course, by other teams that were creating issues for him. But regardless, the production wasn't there. If the production was there, this is a guy that, by the way, has gotten Myles Garrett comps, which is aggressive when you look at the production that you're staring at right there on the screen. But if he had production with what he can bring from a physical traits perspective, people would be talking about him perhaps going first overall. All right, let's talk about Daniel Jeremiah's guy. Now, another edge rusher here for the Cincinnati Bengals. He had Mike Green available at 17, and he had Cincinnati going out there and picking Mike Green. The production for Green, complete opposite of the production that we saw from Shemar Stewart. He was going crazy this past year, sacking quarterbacks all over the place at Marshall. But in alignment, Jeremiah, Kiper say Cincinnati needs an edge rusher here at 17 overall. Let's take a look at what Jeremiah had to say. Much more short, sweet, to the point here from Jeremiah. He said Green would be an outstanding complement to Trey Hendrickson if the Bengals are able to work things out with their star defensive end. My thoughts around the corner. But we've got you covered here all offseason long. We've got NFL draft coverage for you as well. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button for me, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Kind of what I was alluding to here. Look at these numbers from this past season. 13 games played over at Marshall, 17 sacks, 59 pressures. My goodness, ripping the football away, had a couple of forced fumbles as well. He was all over the field for Marshall and was clearly their best player. Now, he was at Virginia, and we'll touch on to what exactly happened there. And then he didn't play at all in 2022. So that certainly is kind of an unorthodox route to the NFL. But these past 2 years at Marshall, he really, really has balled out, especially in 2024, kind of where he peaked there and really burst onto the scene as a guy that was going to be probably a lock to be a first-round draft pick. Now, let me know, who would you draft between these two guys, Shemar Stewart or Mike Green? Type SS for Shemar Stewart or MG for Mike Green. Let me know in the comments of today's show. All right, now for my comments. I'll be honest with you. Neither one of these guys gets me super fired up, to be completely honest with you. I don't really have a strong opinion here in terms of whether or not I would go with Shemar Stewart or whether or not I would go with Mike Green. Now, if you force me to pick, I'm going to go with Shemar Stewart. Why? A couple of reasons. The traits are very intriguing. I have said here that I'm looking for a guy to come in here and produce immediately, and that doesn't align with Shemar Stewart, especially, considering the production that he had, or lack of production that he had at Texas A&M. But I'll be transparent here. It's the off-the-field stuff with Mike Green. Won't go in too much detail here, but he was accused of sexual assault in high school, and then he was accused of it again at Virginia, and that, allegedly, is what he said at the Combine, caused him to leave from Virginia. And then he sits out a whole season and then, plays 2 incredible seasons for Marshall. Now, he hasn't been charged with anything, so, gotta, make that very clear. Hasn't been charged. And he did come out and address this right away at the NFL Combine, and I do commend him for that, to go out there and kind of, not run from it and just address it right away. But Cincinnati cannot afford to take a guy that has these kinds of issues. They did it with Jermaine Burton. Obviously, that wasn't a first-round pick, but they need a guy that's going to be coming in, be professional, be someone that can rely on the field and off the field as well, and can be somebody that's good in the community as well. There's red flags all over the place when you're talking about a guy like Mike Green, and it's kind of splitting hairs when you're talking about who you would take, right? I'm not saying, Shemar Stewart's definitely way better. No, it's kind of a toss-up in my opinion, but you don't have the off-the-field stuff with Shemar Stewart, so that's kind of why I am landing on him. Also, look at safety, right? Edge rusher certainly is a need for you. Obviously, we all understand that. But if you're sitting there in a spot and you go, well, Jalen Walker's gone, Abdul Carter's obviously also gone. Let's say Shemar Stewart and Mike Green are gone. You don't necessarily need to force and take another safety that you don't necessarily, or take another edge rusher that you don't necessarily love. look at safety. See if Nick Amon-Warrior or a guy like Malachi Starks is available, because in these mock drafts, Starks was available for Kiper and Amon-Warrior was available for Jeremiah. So in that situation, I think you would definitely consider taking a safety there at 17 overall. Will the Bengals win a Super Bowl in the next 4 or 5 years? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. Appreciate all you guys hanging out here to this point. Jesus says he's a bust. Not sure if you're talking about Green or Stewart or both. But that's fair. It's a fair comment. Oh, Burton? Yeah, or Jermaine Burton. Derek says Green. Yeah, Chuck, 100%. You need a linebacker. All right, you can't roll Oren Burks out there as your starter. I don't think you can. You definitely need a linebacker to pair with Logan Wilson. Jesus says Stewart's a bust. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But picking between those two guys, I went with Stewart there in that situation. Appreciate you guys hanging out this afternoon, and we will be back. We'll have videos for you. We'll have a segment that'll go out later today. So if you got here late, you missed our first segment on Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. That will be available on demand here in about probably 15 minutes. So make sure you check that out. And we will be live again next Wednesday, probably 4:30 is when we will go live here. Me and Chris Daughtry, and that'll do it for today's live show. Make sure you guys hit that sub button for me right now so you don't miss out on any of our coverage, youtube.com/BengalsTV.